Are you in the market to buy a home in Texas? Are you a first-time home buyer? Or maybe you're thinking about moving to Texas and you want to know what the home buying process is going to entail. It doesn't matter whether you're a first-time home buyer or you've bought homes and sold homes in the past. The process is the same, but we still get asked a lot of those questions by potential buyers. Well, in this video, we're going to answer some of the most common questions that we get. And do remember that this video is geared toward pre-existing home sales. If you're considering buying new construction homes, then the process and the paperwork are going to be a little bit different.
Saludos y bienvenido a nuestro canal. Hey guys, if this is your first time to our channel and you want to know everything there is to know about the current real estate market in the North Dallas area, then don't forget to subscribe below, tap that notification bell, and like this video so that you can be the first to know about the current market in Dallas, Texas. My name's Marilyn. This is Mike, my husband. We are full-time realtors here in the state of Texas, but we work in the North Dallas area, and we get contacted every day by folks just like you who are looking for information about what's going on in Dallas, Texas, and we love it. So it doesn't matter whether you're moving in a few days, in a few weeks, in the next year. All it starts is with one conversation. So give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. Our information is down below. We would love to help you get started on this process.
Buying a home is probably going to be one of the most expensive decisions you're going to make in your lifetime. And because of that, we want to ensure that you're comfortable with every step of the process so that you can get that dream home you've always thought about. When you buy a home, you're going to be dealing with tons of paperwork, and there is going to be a lot of forms you're going to be required to sign and look over. But don't worry, because as your real estate agents, we're going to make sure that you're comfortable with every step of the process.
As we said, we get a lot of questions. Here are some of the common ones. The first one, Mike, is, as a buyer, how do I know what to offer when I see a home that I want to buy?
Right. Well, that's a great question. And this is where you're really going to have to trust your real estate agent. What we'll do is when you have found that home in that specific market that you're looking for, we're going to put together what we call a comprehensive market analysis. And what we'll do is we're going to look at all the homes that have sold within the past probably about 90 days. We're going to go out a mile from those homes and we're going to find similar sales that match the home you want to make an offer on. We're going to look at the year built, we're going to look at square footage, we're going to look at number of beds, baths, and we're going to look at some of the amenities in the home. So when we prepare the offer, you can be making the most competitive bid that you can for that property. Which leads us into the next question: how is the offer presented?
Well, it's usually presented in writing, or it's always presented in writing, not usually. And when you decide on a home, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and fill out what is called the 1-to-4 residential resale contract, which is promulgated through the Texas Real Estate Commission. And that paperwork or that document, those documents, detail everything about the offer. So who the parties are, the legal description of the property, the sales price, how much money you're putting down as a down payment, the title company, their address, their contact information, earnest money, closing date, financing. It details everything in specific about that offer. Once that offer is ready to go, then we will go ahead and submit that to the seller through their agent. And then they will present it to the seller, and understand that it does not become a contract until both parties have signed and dated the paperwork, and then it becomes an official contract. Another question that we get asked, and I love this one, is do I communicate directly with the seller?
Right. Well, all communications should be handled directly through both agents. Real estate agents make offers on homes every day, and our job is to help make the best offer, protecting you against potential issues that may come up during a transaction. It basically helps keep things very neat if we just keep all communications between both respective agents. And another common question we get are, what contingencies do you recommend including with the offer?
There are various contingencies depending on the situation, but the most common ones are they're in the form of an addendum, and one of those would be the third-party financing addendum, and that basically details the loan product that you as a buyer are going to use, the terms of that product, who is the product, whether it's a VA loan, a conventional, FHA, and it also gives the seller the amount of time that you've determined to get all of your financing in order. Another addendum that is pretty common is the HOA addendum. Or as I said before, let's say you have a home that you need to sell. That's called the sale of another property by the buyer. And that addendum or contingency will have detail to the seller, the address of the home, the price of the home, and the time frame as to when you think you're going to sell that home. So this is all information that really is pertinent for the seller to know that you are moving forward with the home.
Right.
So another question, Mike, that buyers normally ask is, how much earnest money should I put down?
Right. Now, everybody's situation is different, and there really is no set rule, but our recommendation is usually 1% of the sales price. Now, there's two things to remember when you are going to deposit your earnest money. Number one is this check will be deposited with the title company, so you want to make sure that you have enough funds to cover that money. Number two is this amount is going to be credited towards the final sales price. So a lot of people wonder, well, what's going to happen with my earnest money? Don't worry, it's going to be applied towards your sales price. Now, tied into that is another common question, and that is option money the same as earnest money, and is it necessary?
No, option fees are separate from the earnest money. This fee is a nominal amount or a nominal fee that you agree to pay to the seller for the unrestricted right for you to cancel with notice of termination to the seller within so many days, depending on what the number of days you determine, after the effective date of the contract. Now, is it necessary? No, it's not necessary, but we highly recommend that you do pay this nominal fee so that you don't forfeit that unrestricted right to terminate the contract should anything come up.
Right.
Now, Mike, another question that we get is, when do you need to provide the earnest money and the option fee?
Well, according to the 1-to-4 contract in section 5A, and this is verbatim, delivery of the earnest money and option fee must happen within 3 days after the effective date of the contract. The buyer must deliver to the designated title company in the contract the correct earnest money and the option fee that you have written into the contract. Now, note that these can both be paid separately, or the Texas Real Estate Commission has made things easier for the buyer these days, and you can send in one lump sum to the title company. All right, the offer has been submitted. When do you think we'll hear back from the seller?
Well, there isn't a hard, fast rule on this. The listing agent should acknowledge that they did in fact receive the offer in their inbox. And as a practice, we normally, when we email an offer to a listing agent, we'll text them, call them and let them know that the offer is there, to please acknowledge that. Then they'll have to go ahead and get together with their seller. And that could take, maybe a day, a few hours. It just all depends if there are other offers on the table, how much they have to discuss. But usually within a 24-hour period, we should be able to hear back from the seller whether they've accepted, whether they are going to decline it, or whether they're going to make a counter offer to your offer. Now, sometimes, again, that may take a little bit longer, but we always suggest to our buyers, if you're really serious about the home, to really structure your offer in a very compelling way so that the seller is either going to accept it or they're going to counter it. And then at that point, we begin negotiations. But usually that takes about 2 or 3 days by the time everything is signed, sealed, at least at that point for the contract to be effective.
Right.
The next question segues actually, or is related to the previous question. As a buyer now, you get a counter offer. how long do I have to reply back to the seller if I choose to accept his counter or...
Right. Well, if you've got a counter offer, that's great news because it means that the seller is willing to play ball with you as far as what your offer was. Again, you can choose to accept that offer or you can counter their offer. You go back to the original conversation you had with your real estate agent as far as your goals and what you wanted to pay for that house. I would get back to those people within a 24-hour period because they say if you snooze, you lose. So you want to make sure that you get back to them in a timely manner if you're choosing to counter their offer. The next question that we get along these lines is, well, how do I sign the paperwork? Is it digital? Is it in person? How do we handle all this?
Well, with today's technology, most everything is actually signed electronically. It's delivered electronically, except where maybe a buyer or a seller may not have the technology, or where there is a notary that is required, which in most cases, a lot of these documents will require a notary to notarize your signature. But if you are making just an offer, this paperwork can all be signed electronically and delivered to the seller the same way, and then they will sign it back and deliver it electronically. But if you are closing, at the closing, the day that you close, and you're at the title company, you do have to be there in person to show your driver's license and sign and have papers notarized. Now, sometimes the buyers cannot be present for whatever reason, or maybe even the sellers. And so, again, with technology, there is remote online signing where you can sign remotely. They do have mobile notaries that will travel to your location to help you. And that's happened to us. We've had buyers out of state, sellers out of the country. And so there really should be no obstacles to getting the documents signed. So they can be signed in person to answer the question or electronically depending on the circumstance. Right. So now that the offer is accepted, what are the next steps?
Well, before you pop the champagne and plan that first home warming party, there are some steps that you need to take. And as we discussed above, earnest money and option money need to get to the title company within 3 days of the effective date of the contract. So that's going to be your first step. The second step is schedule your inspection of the home. That's what takes place during that option period. So you want to make sure you get the inspector in there and go through the home to make sure there's no major issues that need to be addressed. The third thing you want to do is make sure that your lender is in the loop as far as the fact that you've put in an offer on a home. The lender is going to be very integral in making sure we get to the closing table. Then the fourth one is, again, your lender is going to be involved with the third-party financing, and they are going to have to start the paperwork process to, again, make sure you get to closing on time.
You also want to make sure that you make no changes to your financial status. I know that it can be real exciting. Your offer got accepted, you're moving along, but you cannot make any changes to your accounts. For instance, don't take out a large amount of money to buy something or accept a large amount of money. Do not open any new credit cards or close any credit cards. And you especially don't want to be so excited to go and buy furniture for your new home until after you close, because the lenders will go ahead and run another credit report. They want to ensure that everything balances according to what they originally had so that they can go ahead and lend you the money. The other thing that you want to make sure is that all of the repairs that you have requested have been submitted and they have been completed so that you know that whatever, all those repairs have been done. The other thing that you want to do is, or the other thing you want to be aware of is that 3 days before closing, your lender is going to send what's called a clear to closing to the title company, letting them know that, hey, we are done. You've been finally totally approved. Now we can move towards the closing. And what the title company is going to do is they're going to prepare a closing disclosure for the buyer and a closing disclosure for the seller. And in that closing disclosure, it's really important that you talk to your realtor so that they know what's, so that they can see and make sure that everything should be where it should be. Meaning, for instance, the earnest money that Michael said was going to be credited back to the sales price, make sure that amount is there. Make sure that anything, any concessions, any debits, any credits are all aligning. And then lastly, on this document, the last thing you want to make sure that you know is the final amount that you as the buyer have to bring to the closing table. And that's going to be, through a cashier's check. And you want to make sure that you have that amount in front of the teller when you tell them that, and make sure that the number and the written dollar amount match. And also make sure that cashier's check is made out to the title company and not to an individual. And lastly, you'll want to do a final walkthrough of the property either the day before, a couple of days before, or the morning of, just again to make sure that everything is the way that it should be. So Mike, how far is the potential closing date from the accepted offer?
Right, well that's going to probably depend on two different things. Number one is, how do you plan on paying for the home through your financing? And number two, how much time is the seller going to need to get out of the house? And that should have all been worked out in the initial offer, whether it's going to be 30 days, 40 days, or does the seller need a lease back, which is a whole nother topic for another video. But if you're a cash buyer, you can usually close anywhere from, as soon as you can, from 10 days to 2 weeks, because you don't have to worry about a lender being involved in any of the financing, and there's going to be no appraisal ordered, so you can move along a little bit faster. If you're doing an FHA or a VA loan, they may take a little bit longer because of different inspections that are required. They may be 30 to 35 to 45 days depending upon your lender. If you're doing a conventional loan, they can close in 30 days or less, again, depending upon your lender. Now, you want to make sure that once an offer is initially sent, that you do get in touch with your lender, because again, they're going to be very integral on making sure that this gets, that the home gets to closing and you get to the title company. All right, so then that begs the question, what do we do at closing?
Well, that is a really good question. The first thing you need to do is to show up on time. Bring your driver's license. Anyone that's going to be signing at the signing table does need to bring their driver's license for the closing. We recommend that you talk to your employer, let them know it's going to take about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending. Sometimes it may take a little bit less, but please allot about 1 hour for the actual closing. Also allot travel time, to and from, so that you can get there on time. And, so those are the expectations on closing day. Be on time and bring your driver's license.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, really, we answered some pretty, I think, important questions for you. And as we said, buying a home is going to be probably the largest investment, the largest financial decision you're going to make. It's probably going to be, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, it's going to probably be one of the scariest decisions that you're going to make, because you've never done anything like this. And that's why we try to provide these kinds of videos to help you answer those questions. But we recommend that you do your due diligence, do some research, talk to other people to help you put it yourself at ease, and then partner up with some great realtors. Mike and I are here to help answer any questions that we can to help you during this process and to make it as smooth as possible for you.
So if you're ready to start the process on looking for a new home, or maybe you're interested also in new construction, we'd love to help you out. All of our information is below, but until then, we look forward to meeting with you or getting together with you and showing you around town. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll talk to you later.
Take care, guys. Bye.